So for this part of the tutorial, I'm going to talk a little bit more about air dodge, but in the terms of the side flip, okay? Because we already know that air dodge means it lets you mount to walls, but the other use it has is it also lets you side flip, which I did do a demo early on, way early in the tutorial, where if you're on the left side driving straight for whatever reason and you want to get over to the right side because you're about to miss a booster or something, you would just jump air dodge right and it moves you over. Or same thing to the left as an example. Okay, so it does help with positioning, but what air dodge also helps with is if you're doing it while you're drifting, it allows you to stay in the same direction while it also jumps you forward a little bit. So if you're drifting to the right and you don't want to hit the guardrail, or you want to avoid hitting the guardrail, then you got to jump and air dodge to the left. So if you're drifting right, it's air dodge left. If you're drifting left, it's air dodge right, which also meaning your side flip. So I'm going to drift right, about to hit the guardrail, jump side flip to the left, jump side flip. It helps you sustain your positioning, okay? So an air dodge, well, or the side flip has a lot of use to where a lot of people, you will see them that they're most commonly drifting if the road is curvy and they're more experienced people, or more advanced I should say, you're constantly going to see them doing this, where they're going to be air dodging like this. They're going to be air dodging while facing the direction they want to keep facing until they decide to release their drift to go straight to start doing the same thing with the next turn, okay, or for going around the turn and start again. So it really helps with your positioning when you're using the side flip, because it keeps you in the direction it keeps you facing the same direction instead of having to do a chain drift, because chain drifting in a curve like this is not always ideal, okay? Usually it's not. You don't want to be doing it in a curve up there where you're just chain drifting. So it's better to do the air dodge when you're flipping to stay in the same direction. One thing to point out, that air dodge is not the best in scenarios when it comes to a spot like this. When it slants up higher, it starts registering. If you don't jump high enough, it's going to register as if you're trying to mount to a wall. So if I'm drifting left and I air dodge, air dodge, air dodge, see? It tried to mount me to the wall for a moment. So the idea with that is you want to be very careful if you're going to be doing side flips going up a ramp, but usually one that's that slanted, you're better off just either doing some kind of chain drift or just a long drift in general, okay? You never want to do the air dodge, because it 90% of the time will get you killed, because it's going to turn you completely sideways, where you're going to end up like this and you're just going to go straight right into a wall. All right. Another thing about the air dodge side flip, some maps have a shortcut where you hit a checkpoint and then you want to stop in the air, in midair. So that means that if I'm drifting right, I'm not going to side flip or air dodge left. I'm going to drift right and then air dodge or side flip right. Now, when it comes to wall, you obviously don't want to drift right and then air dodge right in most cases, okay? But when you're in the air and you're not going to worry about hitting like a wall or mounting to a wall, you can do something like this, where boom, you did that. See? Because there are some maps where they have such a sharp turn and there's a shortcut that you jump and you air dodge the same direction you're drifting, because you hit the checkpoint and then you're going to go down and drop below. I forget the map name at the top of my head, but there is a shortcut where that is very common. I don't remember what this technique is called. I guess you could call it air drift stall or drift stall, but basically it's just a flip stall, whatever you want to call it. I'm not 100% on what it's called, but just know what it does. All right, that's the most important thing. Okay, with that, there's a little bit more I'm going to go over, but here I want to point out this. It's a good idea when you start getting used to some of these maps and routes, like a map like this one called Festive Falls. Usually what players do is they drift around, hit all 3 boosters, and then they turbo, they release their drift, and then they reapply their drift, and then they finish their turbo, jump, and side flip, okay? Because when you get a lot of speed, that side flip gives you more thrust in the air, all right? So keep that in mind, that is one of the reasons why you'll see people on maps like this where they might leave you behind right after this turn, because they are maximizing they're pretty much maximizing their turbo speed because they're hitting the booster, stacking it with a drift, and they also end it with a side flip, which adds to your overall thrust and speed. So that is another spot where, or another way where air dodge has its use. So if I can hit all three, let's see, 1, 2, 3, turbo, release, jump, side flip. See that? I got a ton of speed all the way over here when I landed. So it's good to point out. I think this is just a good example to point out like how you can also maximize your turbo in a way where you're basically stacking a turbo with your drift and hitting boost pads, because it thrusts you so far forward with so much speed, but you also want to top it off by doing a side flip. It's because even if a side flip, let's say even if a side flip or air dodge wouldn't give you that much up front, or even if the game was designed where it wouldn't, you're still going to land and build a drift faster when you land sideways. So when you land, there's less delay right when you land already sideways versus landing and then starting a drift. There's a little longer delay. So most people, like I should say pros and pretty good players, they started understanding that they need to side flip every time they go off of an edge or whenever they land from air. It's best to try and land sideways into a drift. And here, and since I'm right here, here's another example of what to do with the side flip. Also can help with positioning as well, the same way. So if I'm going to hit this first boost pad here, but I'm too far out and I'm not going to hit the wide one, and I want to hit the wide one, then you can kind of air dodge to it, like side flip. So like this, I'm going to miss it, so then I air dodge right to it. Boom. See how I landed? I landed and was able to hit it. So air dodge is very helpful in those perspectives. Something else. Another alternative to that when it comes to trying to move your position, all right? Because you can move in the air while you're in the middle of a drift. If I am drifting and I'm drifting too tight, but an air dodge doesn't seem adequate to reach the next booster, you can just jump and then air dodge back down. So that way, like if I'm not going to make it in time, I can jump and then air dodge. I missed it. What I was trying to do there was, there are some maps where if you're drifting and you feel like you're not going to hit that booster where you need to move out further, when you jump and air dodge down, you will naturally just move over, so that way you can hit that booster. Because there are some places where doing a jump air dodge is not adequate, and it's just better just jumping and then air dodging back down. Because when you at a big turn, let me see, like that, kind of like that. See, because I would have I most likely would have missed this booster going around with that speed if I would not have jumped and then air dodged back down. So I probably would have ended up barely missing it right here, but when I jumped and air dodged back down, it put me back in position where I could hit it. So that's another strategy as well. I know that's kind of advanced. It might be a little advanced, but those ideas come with experience. I just kind of want to throw that out there because that is something that you may run into in the future when you become more advanced and such. All right, one more thing I do want to mention on this before closing this topic off. Let's see. So when we're over here, a jump and air dodge gives you a little less forward thrust than if you just go off of an edge without jumping and just side flipping. Okay, so if you go off of this edge straight, even if assuming that I don't hit those boosters, obviously, on equal scale, if I drift and I jump and air dodge before going off the edge, I won't get as much forward thrust from the side flip, versus if I just let myself just drift off the edge and then side flip. I don't know why it's designed in this game like this, but if you drift and you side flip when you go off the edge, it gives you more thrust. And that's the same thing as well if you turbo and go over it. So first I'll do this. I'll do a jump. I'll jump air dodge. Okay. I didn't get as much forward thrust, but I am going to show you again. Hopefully I can miss the booster to give a good example. So like this. Boom. It gives you a little bit more thrust. It may not seem like it, but it's at least an extra half car pace or a full car pace. All right. Darn it, I can't go back there. So same thing as with a turbo. So if you end up stacking it with a turbo and you go off the edge, it's going to amplify your speed that much more, as an example. So if you go off of an edge, turbo side flip, it's going to give you more thrust. Also, when you use turbo, make sure you start your turbo, or I can't remember which is better. Actually, you want to turbo before you start a side flip, okay? Because if you side flip then turbo, you actually get a little bit less than if you would start the turbo first and then like turbo side flip, okay? Just as long as you turbo first before doing your side flip, you get a little bit more than if you were to side flip and then turbo. Just a little small added tip there with that, okay? Sorry, I didn't mean to make this one so long, but there's a lot of things to go over with air dodge. There's a lot of little things. I'm just trying to kind of throw them in there. I think I checked off all the boxes based on my list here. Yeah,